It's a pleasure. What I love about my name is it is also a fun fact about me. It saves a lot of time at networking events. Giving me more time, in fact, to flirt with the CEOs in a game I like to call Footsie 100, if you will. No, look, let me demonstrate. Right, darling, tell me your name and a fun fact about you. Took too long. See, now ask me to do the same.
Tell me your name and a fun fact about you.
Iona fortune. See, it just works. Just works. No, I am actually rather nervous about being here tonight because usually when I'm entertaining this many people, I'm actually wearing a lot less. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you, darling? So, I thought in the spirit of that, what I'd do is, if I imagine all of you naked, then we will be a bit more comfortable. So, here goes. Oh, no, okay. Ghastly. I have to say, the NHS really is in a sorry state, isn't it? I mean, if this is the level of plastic surgery that we're looking at, maybe we shouldn't be slashing the funding after all. No, that was a joke, of course. Yes, I actually have had work done myself, of course. I mean, you don't get to look this good at 46 without a bit of refurbishment here and there, you know. All the usual things, really, like the loft conversion, the barn extension, and, of course, landscaping the orchard. Yes, I've got a Buddhist chum who says her body's a temple. Mine's more like a stately home in that respect. You know. Costly to maintain, but we do get a lot of visitors. No, but I'm really here tonight, actually, to tell you all about my business acumen, or how I turned Daddy's millions into Mummy's billions. Now, just to explain that one, Mummy is what my husband calls me, which is ironic because we are actually cousins. So, you're naughty, I love it. No, but I'd say the secret to being a successful businesswoman is to know that before you can sell things, you have to learn to sell yourself. Not in that way, get your mind out of the gutter. What I mean, although I have to say drugs are quite difficult to come by at boarding school, and I did what I had to do. But what I'm really getting at is the idea of your personal brand, you know, things like what celebrities you might be like. I always say I'm a cross between the iron testicles of Margaret Thatcher, the expensive hair of Kate Middleclass, and the social life of Tara Palmer Tomkinson, obviously before she died, although I have to say her funeral was a bloody riot. I mean, even the priest was sniffing, and I'm not talking about tears. It really put the fun in funeral, I have to say. But another way you might like to think about your personal brand might be what animals you might be like. As you can tell, I love animals. So I've also got this pheasant on my jumper, and I actually thought it'd be quite fun to bring out a whole clothing line that's just emblazoned with things you can shoot. But I'm not sure how one embroiders a trespasser, so I might have to shelve that idea. But, you know, my friends say, some of my friends say I'm like a unicorn, because I've always got the horn, and also I'm fictional. Other friends say that I'm like a swan, and I think that's because I'm elegant, graceful, and I've been eaten by a member of the royal family. Yeah, turns out swan goes well with a hint of ginger. But once you've established what your brand is all about, you might like to think about your brand values, you know, things like cooperation, sustainability, charity. These were all brand values of the smaller firm that we aggressively took over last year. But values are very important. So my company is a very successful PR, marketing synergy, and you know, perspective is very important in that, because you know, you can't actually spell perspective without using the letters P and R, so you know, it's very integral to PR. And you know, examples of perspective. For example, if a disgruntled employee leaks footage of you urinating on a public monument, you know, you would call it live streaming. You know, that's perspective. Or a hint I actually gave the PM. I said, look, don't say we're eradicating poor people, say we're eradicating poverty, and it sounds much better. So politics is another of my values. I am, of course, a Tory. But it's actually because I'm a feminist, because the Tories produced 2 female prime ministers, which means we've helped at least 2 women, which is excellent. But I do think feminism works both ways, because we need to stop objectifying men. I mean, the other day I heard someone say men are like buses, and I thought, well, no, they're not. I'd never ride a bus. So, now, I'm a Tory, but I like to say that I'm a socialist, mainly because I like champagne, so that works out. Other values I have, I do think charity is really important, mainly for PR reasons, but I actually set up my own charity recently in reaction to the rising problem in knife crime, because people told me that knife crime was increasing, and I thought, I didn't really understand where this problem was coming from, because I was always taught you start at the outside and work inwards with each course. So I didn't know what to do. So I started this scheme to reduce the knife crime, and it's actually a vocational scheme. So what we do is we give them guns instead. Not like that. We actually train them up to be gamekeepers. So that means we get the kids off the street. I can hire them at cost price for really cheap labour. Literally killing 2 birds with 1 stoner. It's brilliant. Other values I've got. I've always been very motivated, very driven, not just because of the chauffeurs, although it helps. People say, why do you carry on working when you've clearly got so much money? And I say, well, I could never rest on my laurels. I did try once, but Laurel tried to sue me. Sexual harassment in the workplace or something. I'm always thinking of new ideas, new inventions. I'm usually actually drinking from a champagne flute rather than a wine glass, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to drink all your favourite drinks from musical instruments? So at home we keep the champagne flutes near the gin trumpets and the peasant's blood ukuleles. Another value that's really important if you want to stay ahead in business is, of course, curiosity. Not just because killing cats is fun, but always be curious, always be asking questions. And questions I've been asking recently have included: is a chalkboard the opposite of a cheese board? What idiot called it a moon cup and not an egg cup? Because there is a bit of a gestation period on that one. And finally, when 2 straight people do anal sex, is that cultural appropriation? But it's important as well, if you want to stay motivated, to have a lot of hobbies and interests, because as we all know, all work and no play makes Jack a shit lay. So I got lots of hobbies. I like to keep in shape. I've got some keep fit tips that I wanted to share. One of them is if you sit on the washer dryer while it's really going for it, the vibrations actually tone up your abs. Of course, Magda complains. She says it's bad for her back. Another one is you can actually burn calories as you eat if you use heavy cutlery. So all ours is made of solid gold. I actually look down on people who were born with a silver spoon in their mouths. So it's just me. Do you have any hobbies, or what's your favourite sport, darling? Badminton. Is that like polo but without the horses? Yeah, so hobbies and interests are really fun. I actually personally like countryside pursuits. They're just the best way of getting outside, seeing nature. Hunting, fishing, dogging. It's all great fun. Great fun. So another thing I like to do, of course, is you will have got the sense I enjoy a bit of dating. I am a bit promiscuous. I like an olive in my martini, if you know what I mean. But I do have boundaries, I'd never consider friends with benefits. just don't mix in those circles. So. Dating is fun when you've got a lot of money, you know. Instead of Tinder, I actually just get models to parade in front of me, and then if I like one, I just throw a pomegranate at them. So you can keep that, take that away with you. Wonderful. Has anyone here been speed dating recently? No, too afraid to admit it, fair enough. I recently went speed dating. I found it was more fun than regular booze dating, but not as fun as coke dating. I think I'll leave it there and end on a high, but you've been absolutely delightful, thanks very much.